Bonsoir tout le monde, il est 7 heures, on va appeler la...
Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. We will go on to the adoption of the agenda. Does anybody wish to make the motion as presented? Moved by Danny, seconded by Councillor Como. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. Declaration of conflict of interest. We are okay there. Presentations. Municipal boundary review with C&D Community Design.
Okay, so as was already mentioned, this is Derek. I'm Raleigh. This is our 2022 boundary review initial findings report for Clare. We're going to start out with doing a little bit of an introduction, then there's some background. Then we're going to get into the scenario, the boundary correction for status quo, and then we're going to go over our public engagement plan and our next steps. So all municipalities are required to do a boundary review every 8 years since 2006. It's mandated by the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board. One of the biggest numbers, or one of the biggest suggestions that we're taking away from their boundary review recommendations is that they have a 10% parity ratio that's going to come up a lot throughout this whole presentation. So a little bit of background, Clare's last boundary review was in 2014, where it was decided that we were going to go forward with maintaining status quo. There were revisions in 2016 and 2018 with Stantec report. In 2018, the Stantec report was deemed adequate by the NSURIB for determining the number of councillors to move forward with. All that was required to move forward was the boundary revisions for that 10% parity recommendation. So the 2018 Stantec report offered two options to the public. There was continuing the 8-district framework or moving forward with a 5-district framework. The public largely favored staying, or it was a nearly split decision that the public would go towards an 8-district system. But when they delved further into the information, they found that the public preferred to stay towards status quo because of the transition involved, or the extra effort involved in transitioning to a 5-councillor system. There was an election in 2020, and the results for the municipality of Clare's elections shows a relatively high voter turnout, with 64% of the voters coming to the last election. District 4, 5, 8, and 2 were all acclaimed positions. And there was a special election in 2021 for District 7. Electoral district information was sourced from Elections Nova Scotia, so we used their information to generate a lot of statistics on electors for this recommendation. So a bit of an overview for the existing electoral districts. As I mentioned before, there's 8 districts. The Stantec report showed that there's about a 4% decrease in population annually. In 2021, the population in Clare was about 7,678. In 2016, that number was closer to 8,035. At the moment, the provincial growth rate is about 5%, and the national growth rate is about 5% as well. That varies from municipalities. Some municipalities have such a high rate that it generates a higher rate for the province. With the overall population decline, it means that some of the districts fell out of parity over time, especially since the last review. And in order to maintain status quo, we would have to do some of these revisions to the boundaries. If we're to compare the composition of council to the rest of Southwest Nova Scotia, we can see that the average number for councillors is typically 5, but when we look at larger municipalities, ones that are more associated, they'll typically be called municipality of the district of, like municipality of the district of Lunenburg or municipality of the district of Shelburne. Those ones with larger geographic units actually tend to have a higher number on average of councillors, closer to 6.8 or 7. The municipality of Clare has the second highest number of representatives with 8, and the other highest leader is the municipality of Argyll for Southwest Nova Scotia. Both municipalities have French communities within them, and that information or that context can be used to argue for area of interest criteria with the NSUARB. In some cases, if we have to fall outside of parity, but we want to maintain a certain community. The 2018 Stantec report confirmed that the public and council are comfortable with the existing council size. And for this reason, we will be engaging the public and council only in a boundary alteration recommendation for this boundary review. That's just a map of the number of councillors to constituents served in Southwest Nova Scotia. So if we look at our current electors by district, we'd see that some of these are falling outside of the 10% ratio that we're looking for. Most notably, District 2 is below the average number of electors or outside of the NSUARB suggested parity. District 4 is also below and outside of that district parity. District 1 is coming close to it, and there will be some alterations to District 1 in this recommendation. So in the past, the NSURB has considered polling locations to be important for community of interest or districts positioning. While the board will permit a variance of up to 25% in outer limits, the range should only apply in exceptional cases where the affected municipalities provides detailed written reasons showing the population density, community of interest, or geographic size clearly justify the necessity of an increased variance within the polling district. In many cases, however, the board expects municipalities to meet a target variance in the number of electors in each polling district, which is within a 10% range of the average. The municipality of Clare offered 2 polling locations within the 2020 election, this municipal building as well as north of Littlebrook and Meteghan Fire Hall. The important communities within the municipality are Belleville Cove, Church Point, Littlebrook, Saulnierville, Meteghan, Malvillette, Salmon River, and Corbury. So for our boundary alteration, we looked at particularly maintaining, we looked at making a revision to every district because we wanted to maintain communities and look to some communities that might have been divided along roads in the past. We were hoping that this would make more continuous borders, and creating continuous borders was another important aspect of creating our recommendation. Obviously, as I mentioned before, that 10% variance or ratio is incredibly important in the application to the NSUARB. So with that being said, the proposed revisions to each district, starting with District 1, would be that District 1 would relinquish the community of Ohio and New Edinburgh into District 2, and the community of Margot from District 2 would be placed into District 1. With District 2 having given away Margot to District 1, it would also be relinquishing Hectanuga to District 6. District 3 will receive the community of Littlebrook in its entirety from District 4, where it does not have the entirety of Littlebrook at the moment. And it would also receive the entirety of Lower Concession from Districts 4 and 5. District 4, as I mentioned before, would be losing some of Littlebrook to District 3. District 5 would then contain the communities of Bangor, Lower Saulnierville, Meteghan River, and St. Benoni, in their entirety. District 6 will undergo the most changes because District 6 would be relinquishing Metagan to District 7. Metagan's the largest community of electors in the municipality. So as I mentioned before, Metagan would be relinquished to District 7, and then that would leave it with the communities of District 6 with the communities of Metagan Station and Metagan Center. And then it would be recommended the communities of Maxwellton, Mayflower, Lake Doucette, and Springdale would be added to District 6 from, I believe it's District 8. District 7 would, as I mentioned before, receive the entirety of Metagan, and then it would relinquish St. Alphonse into District 8. District 8 will have the most changes because it would have the new larger community of St. Alphonse placed within it. So to balance District 8, we would need to move Maxwellton, Mayflower, Lake Doucette, and Springdale to District 6, as I mentioned before. So this is a map of all the affected, or this is a table I did of all the affected communities by that recommendation. The numbers to the left are if I had put all the communities together in the first place. It's not the number of electors in the existing districts. And then the number to the right is the balance number for each new district. So the communities were dispersed in a way that none of them are divided by roads. It's all straight the community borders to create the new map, which is this map here. And then you can see some of our numbers are much more balanced. District 1 has gone down quite a bit in parity. It will have space to grow, where in the past it has grown slightly more than the other districts. Every other district is also balanced in terms of parity and has space to either grow or, because it's a district that wasn't necessarily growing in the past, may have a few extra electors so that by the next boundary review, they wouldn't fall too far out of parity. If you can look to the map, you can see a lot more better what I described. And I know that with New Edinburgh, it's kind of an island and off from District 1. I have a section to address that later as well if we want to change that. So this is kind of our schedule for our public engagement that was in the report. We're hoping to do the staff and council presentation, but also mail out packages to the public that will include just a fill out comment card to mail back something that we can quantify as information from them. We're hoping to do newspaper ads to advertise the public meeting and include that on the Clare website as well. And then we're also hoping to create, well, we've already been underway making a survey for, an online survey for the public to fill out, and we can use that as information as well moving forward, get their best opinion on the boundaries that we're suggesting. And then from here on, we can move out with the public hearings after the public meetings and the formal public hearing with the NSU-ARB. So the alternative scenario that I described with New Edinburgh, if we were to place New Edinburgh back into District 1 and instead move the Weaver settlement as well as Ohio into District 1, and I might be getting the pronunciation of this wrong, but Grosses Cox to District 2. If we were to do that, then we could see that they would both have balanced parity ratios as well. So just if we were, we didn't have enough time to make a map for it, but if we wanted to make sure that the borders were continuous, instead of having that island of District 2 next to District 1, we could go with this scenario as well. Yeah.
Wouldn't that make Gruskock an island?
Because I moved Weaver settlement as well as Ohio, they all have continuous borders. So it would,
Is there a road from Großkirch to? Or I guess, yeah.
that's why I placed Margot back in District 2 as well. Yeah. Okay, so does anybody else have any questions on this alternative? Yes.
Well, the first scenario with District 2, Newdenburg going to District 2, that's where I live, so it wouldn't make sense that he'd be my counselor. It wouldn't make sense to me. And that's 163 elected voters that are in my area, so I can't see that going on anyway. I don't know about him, but.
The only thing about including New Edinburgh in District 2, geographically, District 2 is huge as it is. So you'd be going from the Yarmouth County line to the tip of New Edinburgh. That is, and there's be zero communities of interest between New Edinburgh, you know, and Richfield, and I don't know, that one just doesn't seem to fit at all. I don't know what else you could do, but I mean, if you're allowed to make special allowances because of geographical size and, you know, communities of interest, I'd say District 2 would definitely qualify for that.
I would say it would be best to fill out the comment cards that we sent along to you guys as well with this information, because we can adjust our recommendation before going to a public meeting. With that being said, you know, we would want to have a particular area of interest out of District 2, or, you know, something that was going to stand out to us in that way, right? That we could justify it. But that also being said, in a lot of the municipalities throughout Southwest Nova Scotia, you do see typically like this larger district that's kind of compensating for the rest of the land mass. I know with the review that we just did for Shelburne, like, they had two much larger districts than the rest of the districts. And with the way I came out with the recommendation, they wanted to maintain one community specifically. That community came out geographically quite small to be its own district. But then you still had much larger districts around it. So it's not necessarily a strange thing to see.
I did want to add, like, if we're leaning towards the alternative scenario at the moment, like if that seems to make sense to you guys, we can definitely get a map put together, and we can send a letter to council with that map. And at that point, we would be happy to take your direction and move in that direction instead with the public feedback. I think it probably helped to see it on a map, because I'm having trouble putting it in my mind's eye as we talk about it right now, but that's definitely something we can do. And then through those feedback forms that Raleigh mentioned, it's, you know, as part of the process with the NSUARB, they're looking for the reasoning. That's really, like, you can go above that 10% line in the special interest. You just have to show them you've thought about it. There's a good reason, and it's the more of that we can get in writing, you know, the better.
Yeah, it's really about giving us your feedback from here so that we can make any revisions and pass it on to CAO before we have get into our public meetings.
Just a question on, have you run any scenarios based off of the first scenario there, but keeping New Edinburgh in District 1? If everything else was stayed the same in that scenario, but New Edinburgh was added back to District 1, how far out of parity would we be? And are we within a limit where we can make a reasonable argument under the whole community of interest piece? Because I think to Councillor Hill's point, I think there is a valid argument to be made there, both in terms of language, but also in terms of geography as well. So just wondering how
Well, I did have a table for it, but I don't see it in the presentation. But that being said, if it's 163, that's about nearly 20% of the average number of electors, just off the top of my head looking at it. Maybe a bit less, maybe more like 18%. But you know what I mean? That's enough that it's going to put it out of the ratio. That's the reason why I was originally moving it into District 2.
If Weaver Settlement and Ohio were put back in District 2, wouldn't that balance it out pretty much?
In the first scenario that I recommended, this one here, this map, the Weaver Settlement and Ohio are in District 2. Yeah, so what this one here is suggesting is that Weaver Settlement and Ohio go into District 1, and then Margot, instead of going into District 1, stays in District 2. So that should, as far as I can tell, give a continuous border, but we haven't put it through GIS yet.
There's also another issue here too. I don't really want to, District 2 is kind of the English district. Like 90% of the English people is probably in District 2. So to include, like the second idea you had of Gruskock coming into District 2, I don't even think the people in Gruskock would care for that, to be honest about it. I wouldn't think so. Because like, I have the largest geographical area, and I might be off 85 to 90% of the English residents, I'd have to assume, in District 2.
Well, actually, what you just said is considered the community of interest criteria, so that there is a language basing off it. If we wanted to maybe try a suggestion moving forward where we leave Grosscox in District 1, we'll probably have to run some numbers on that because that's almost 300. I think in that instance, we'd be leaving Weaver Settlement in Ohio in District 2, right? So they both would remain largely unchanged, but we could say District 2 is a distinctively English district. These geographic borders make sense for the English communities. Same deal with District 1, French communities. These geographic borders make sense for French communities. Does anybody else have any questions? I believe that's everything we had.
So does anyone have any questions for these guys? Very detailed presentation. Any questions at all? Danny?
Not really a question, I do have a comment. I do like the idea of trying to keep communities intact. I really like that. That's a simple way to do it.
Yeah.
But you see, in District 2, one side of Weaver Settlement and is already in a different district. It's in the Digby area, so it's already split up. Same thing with Southville.
Yeah.
So District 2 was kind of unique to begin with.
Just to echo Danny's comments there, the keeping of communities together, from an administration perspective, and in speaking to our returning officer, she certainly agrees that it is much easier to administer during election time, as opposed to having communities split down a single road. It saves a lot of questions from constituents who are perhaps confused as to why they're voting, but their neighbor is voting in another district. So from a purely administrative perspective, and I do appreciate that this is ultimately council's decision, but administratively, the division along village boundaries certainly makes sense.
Any more questions, Councillor DeVille?
Merci, Monsieur le Préfet. Are we going to have a more detailed map marking the roads a bit? Because right now, if you look at the map, like certain roads, we don't know. It's hard to tell exactly like where it starts or ends, or so. Are we going to have a more detailed maps marking the roads? Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
Any more questions, comments?
If that's it for questions, I would just like to ask that we get some of those feedback forms from you guys. I think I've got pretty good notes here, but they really do go a long way, especially like what you said, Danny, about the English and the English settlements in throughout District 2. So that would be great for us, and we can certainly provide some more detailed maps if that's going to be helpful. Yeah.
That's good.
So if there's no more questions, Councillor DeVoe? Well,
Oh, sorry. If I may, just in terms of, just to clarify next steps, before going out to the public with this, you're waiting on some of the feedback.
Oh, yeah, we would like to make some revisions from everything that was discussed here tonight to the point where we have something that council would like to take to the public, and then we can move forward from there.
So that's what I was getting to. So council will see this one last time before it goes out to the public, based off of tonight's feedback.
Yeah, and how we do that, we can kind of leave that, we can talk about that later, but, you know, we've done, for Yarmouth, Municipality District Yarmouth, we did a letter to council, and they just kind of approved the next steps, and we went to it with we just incorporated the feedback from the presentation there and went through, so.
So any more questions, comments? If not, we'd like to thank you very much for your presentation, and we're waiting to hear from you guys, and we'll be in touch. Thanks.
We will go on to item 5, adoption of minutes. 5.1, May 18, 2022. Regular council meeting. You have seen the minutes. Does anybody wish to make the motion that we adopt as presented? Moved by Danny, seconded by Councillor DeVoe. All those in favor? Against? Motion is carried. 5.2, June 8, 22, council and committee meeting. You have all seen the minutes. Does anybody wish to make the motion to approve the minutes as presented?
The changing of the years for the fire trucks. So is St. Bernard getting a new truck in 23 and Havelock in 24 and St. Bernard in 25? Is that how it's changing? Okay, because it didn't have the years. I just wanted to be sure. All right, thanks.
Clarification is correct. So does anybody wish to make the motion? Councillor Gaudette, seconded by Councillor DeVoe. All those in favor? Against? Motion is carried. On item 6, business arising from previous council meetings. 6.1, the Grand Réveil Acadien. Just to make a reminder, in 2000 we were invited by Louisiana communities to attend to the Grand Réveil for 2000. It's something that the council at the time was considering because we are preparing our request for the Congrès Mondial, and it was something that would be good to obtain the Congress, but also to make the promotion of our community in Louisiana. Unfortunately, with COVID, the Grand Réveil in 2021 were canceled, so now we are starting to see this again, and we have been once again invited by Church Point Cultural District in Louisiana to attend the Grand Réveil 2022, which will be held for a week in October. So at the committee and council meeting, there seemed to be interest to send a delegation. There is no discussion yet about who would be part of that delegation, but at the time I said that I would speak with the Congrès Mondial, and since the last meeting last week, the Congrès Mondial will send a delegation, And I understood also that there is a possibility that the province, through the Acadian Affairs and Francophonie, will also send a delegation or representatives to attend to the Grand Réveil 2022. So that being said, I think still there is value for the municipality to have representatives, not necessary to decide tonight who will participate or if it will be councillors or staff. But I think there is an opportunity there to do something good and to align meetings. We have links and expectations from Church Point in Louisiana, so it would be good to review those agreements and to create links with these communities in Louisiana to join our two municipalities. So my recommendation is that we answer to the letter from Hera Belfont from Church Point to let him know, to thank them for the invitation and let them know that the municipality will send representatives in October 22. And between now and then, we will discuss the details of who and establish an agenda. So what I am asking is this something, are you ready to do? Are you, do you agree that I send this letter and have a possible motion? Does anybody have any comments or questions on this? Doesn't it? Councillor DeVoe? I have no comments, but I make the motion that we proceed with the letter to that group. Anybody second that? Councillor Comeau, all those in favor? Motion carried. Then we will go on to item self, to the warden's activity report. He sends his regrets that he's not here tonight, but he will make his report at the next meetings. Item 8, official statements from members of council. Does anybody have any presentations?
Councillor Comeau.
About Lex Bukowski. A longtime resident of the community of Clare, Lex is a proud lobster fisherman and father to 2 teenage boys who attend École Secondaire de Clare. Lex is also devoted to his roots in Ukraine, which is why, in March of this year, he boarded a plane to return to his hometown of Lviv to do what he could do to defend his country caught up in Russia's violent invasion. For a harrowing number of weeks that led into months, Lex was part of a team who brought much-needed supplies into devastated communities. These included food, diapers, generators, and medical equipment. He helped evacuate injured soldiers, children, and the elderly. Back home, Clare residents have been invested in Lex's efforts. They have donated to and fundraised for his cause. They have flown the Ukrainian flag outside their homes and businesses. They speak of him with pride and great respect. Lex is now back home in Clare to spend some much-deserved time with his family and friends. On social media, Lex wrote, "No human should ever live through what I have witnessed here." He left the safety of our community to help communities in need. I thought it important to highlight Lex's courage in our council chamber. We recommend you for your humanitarian efforts. We wish you safety as you pursue your projects to protect your home country of Ukraine. The community of Clare supports you. To further show our support, I would like to put forward a motion to raise the Ukrainian flag on the community flagpole on the week following our Canada Day celebrations.
Thank you. Is there, should we make a motion for the flag? Is there a discussion on this motion? Seconded by Councillor Hill. All those in favor? It is very appreciated what he did for his country, and which included our residents. And I think this is a very good. Number 9 correspondence, Phil Barrett. Oh, Councillor DeVoe, excuse me. the number 7 of June, 3 young people from our municipality were awarded medals from the Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia to Adrien Como from Saunieville has gotten the medal of the Jubilee Medal, which is a new medal given to persons who do a lot of volunteer work in their areas and who involved in the region. And also Denise Thibault and Sophie Leblanc, also from Saunieville, were given the medals of the Lieutenant Governor for excellent work at the school in their classes, and also for doing volunteer work in the community like Adrien. I would just like to thank them for all the work that they're doing for their area, and if council would like, I think it would be good to send them a letter from the municipality to thank them for their work and congratulate them for this merits. So I think, do we need a motion to send this type of letter? I think it suffices, yes, be indicated in the minutes. Seconded by Councillor Godin. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. So now, number 9. It's 9.1. Fen Barrett, Vice Chair of the Digby and Area Health Service Charitable Foundation, sent a letter.
Will be holding its 7th annual Richard Ellis Memorial Golf Tournament on June 23rd, 2022 at the Digby Pines Golf Resort and Spa. We are reaching out to your community as you provide valuable products and or services to the Digby General Hospital in Digby. This event is our major fundraiser for the year, in which funds raised have gone towards purchasing much needed new equipment for the Digby General Hospital, such as a bladder scan unit and BiPAP machine, as well as community programs such as Digby Area Recreation Commission and Digby and Area Senior Safety Program. This year's tournament will be raising funds for the purchase of a new patient lift. We hope you will consider supporting the Digby and Area Health Service Charitable Foundation by sponsoring in one of the following ways. A tee box at $125, a sign with your company information will be displayed the day of the tournament on the golf course, or a golf cart sponsorship, $250, with a sign with your company information will be displayed on the golf cart for the day of the tournament, or simply a monetary donation of your chosen value to the Digby and Area Health Service Charitable Foundation. Generous supporters such as you are valuable partners with the foundation in maintaining present and future health services within the Digby area. The foundation thanks you for your support. Sincerely, Phil Harrod, Vice Chair.
En attendant ça,
Hearing that is the desire of council to get involved in this. Councillor Godin, do we send them money every year, usually? Actually, it's the first time that we receive such a request. Normally we give money to the Yarmouth Hospital Foundation, but as far as I know, this is the first time that we receive a request from them. But this being said, I spoke to people from the medical center. Some of them put some time in the Digby Hospital so I think some of our members work there in the Digby Hospital, so according to me, I think it would be appropriate to consider their request. If it's something that we just want to request, like they say, in a golf cart, or if you wanted to make a monetary donation, because we also have residents that are at the Digby Hospital quite often. I don't, I think we should, we should help them, maybe, because some residents go to either Digby or Yarmouth in one of the two hospitals. Are there any sponsorships? I think because of the categories, there are options. We can do a monetary fund, send them a check with a letter if we want to. We can also sponsor a golf cart as you wish. If we simply want to do it in Yarmouth, what we do is send them a letter and a check, and they give us a bit of publicity in exchange, but this is not the principal reason why we do this. So it's as you wish. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor DeVoe? Thank you. Maybe something we could do, for example, is do a golf cart for $250 and also give them an amount, or whether it be $1,000 or whatever we decide, and then we cover both. We could write them a letter that we would sponsor a golf cart, but we can also do a donation of $1,000, but we would also like to see our name on the golf cart if it's possible. I think the idea of Councillor Kada is good. $1,000. I would be happy to suggest $1,000 for this, and also the card for the golf tournament. So somebody wants to second this, or are there any other comments before we do? Seconded by Councillor Hill. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried.
Item 10, the Chief Administrative Officer's report. Thank you. I received an email from Mainland for an update. The email just came in before the meeting.
Majority of Salmon River, Hectanuga area activated by the end of the month. That will be the majority of the network, with a few areas to finish off afterwards. Regarding Eel Lake Drive, we're hoping to have trimming start during the last week of June. Most of what's left is just difficult make-ready areas. Currently, we have 775 customers online. And lastly, we are still progressing on a new TV service.
So that's just a small update for the internet project through Mainland, but the majority has been constructed and the project is coming to a close. For the rest of the projects we don't have much on the Veterans Center. We made a call to Chris D'Entremont for an update. I asked if there was a possibility that they look into our financial request for that project, simply because it is something that we are doing exclusively for the Congress, but it was part of our tender to accommodate the Congress here in Clare. It is an important structure that we will need. The Congress is coming between now and 2 years, and the timing is key. We have to go forward sooner than later on the construction. For the Clare Health Center, the project is going forward. There was a small delay with the construction documents that the FRA are preparing for us. The elevator shaft essentially has to be bigger to accommodate the elevator that we need for this project. So that meant a few revisions for the communication and mechanical halls or rooms. So there will be new plans these are minor revisions, but we will have the new plans by Friday of this week. With all the elevations of the sections, furniture layout, the final plans, 100% architecture, we will receive them on Wednesday, the 29th of June. The engineering plans, we will receive them the week after, on July 5th. And once we have them at hand, our intention is to go to tender right away. In theory, we can tender the project after July 5th. The Minister of Health has given us a tentative date, the 18th of July, for a visit here in Meteghan. For our public spaces project, with just a few updates for the Marie Dugas, the tourism manager and myself, we met with the representative of ACOA to discuss the project, request for potential funds. It was a very good discussion. They gave us a few hints to look at, and there seems to be an interest there. We are working on the concept, one-pager concept that they are asking. We will start a similar process with the province to have them guide us regarding the programs and departments we should apply for. And we are working on the necessary permits through the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables for both sites, Marie-Joseph Dugas in Bellevos Cove and the chapel in Majors Point. Just to remind you, we are looking at a project of 1.19 million, and it is 50% federal, 25% provincial, and 25% municipal. So for the lighthouse at Cape St. Mary, the Varcon company is completing the designs for the viewing platform. It is impressive. What we are proposing is that the meeting for the council in July, either Larry Peach or myself, we will make a presentation of the plans for the park and look at the prices also, pricing. So that's like the project we had in Bellevos Cove and Majors Point. For the welcoming community, there is a small change there. Yesterday, it was announced that they will extend the program for an extra year. It was a 3-year project, but we received confirmation that it will go on to 2024, and the municipality of Clare will receive another contribution of $232,000 to put initiatives under this project. And the way that we are managing the project, there were changes there too. The project is now administered through our Department of Community Development. In the past, it was a lot on the shoulders of our communications agent, but now we are spreading that to the other department. Amy will still be an important part of it, but it will be more equal now for the work. The Société Acadienne is still a partner in the project, like a lot of groups in the community, but starting April the 1st this year, they will not have a role in the management of the project. So Marc-André Lagacé, Marc-Alexandre Lagacé, who was the cultural animator, he will finish his contract as a municipal employee. His office will be at the Rendezvous de la Baie. And we also hired Marcel Saunier as the manager of the Rendezvous de la Baie, the welcoming center, until the end of 2024 for the duration of the project. Marcel starts his work on May 31st, and he works with the welcoming committee, welcoming community, and he works with Larry Beach also. He already worked last year on another project. And the Multicultural Days in Clare will be held again this year from the 24th to the 27th of June. Last year it was a festival, a hybrid festival. There were virtual and in-person activities because of COVID, but this year all the festival will be held in person. And the details are on our municipal website. For the housing, the request for tender is ready to come out as soon as we have the transactions to get the lands that we wanted. The approach would be that the request for tenders would include all the terrains that we want to develop, just to be able to attract developers who would invest resources in the community on the long term in terms of human resources, etc. But today we have 3 pieces of land for this project, and a 4th is being finalized now, just besides the Havelock Community Center. The 4th, the purchase of this 4th plot will be finalized in August this summer, but it's not because the negotiations are not going good. It's we need to request through the Quiet Act. It is administrative, but it is something we need to do to go through the courts, and it is delaying the process. But all the negotiations and discussions with the owners of the lands that we want to purchase are going really well. So this is just a point. As part of that request for funds, we will also include, or intend to include, the 2 schools, Stella Maris and Joseph de Gaulle. And the copy of the tender will be presented to council before they come out. For the sewer system extension, we have no news yet from the province or the federal government. The transfer station in Clare, we will talk about it this evening at 12:10, so we won't talk about it now. The multi-use court in Havelock, we will talk about it under new business 12.9, so I will jump this for now.
For the project of track and field, Harborside Engineering was on the site this week, and they are still there. They're doing the inspection of the gravel base, and they will stay there for the whole week to continue oversee the asphalt. They have put the first coat of asphalt today, and the intention is to put the second coat, which is the final coat, tomorrow if the weather permits. And then Playtex is also there to oversee the placement of the asphalt. We also have an inspector who is inspecting the artificial grass, and this is something that is done by Turf Masters, which is the supplier of this artificial grass, just to say that the condition and the installation of the grass is acceptable. There's a lot of action there. It's intense this week. The project, we expect to finish the project in August before the students come back on campus. As I have mentioned in the Council of Committee, there's been an increase in the price because of the asphalt, especially because it's a petroleum-based product, and also our supplier of asphalt has retired from the project, and we had to find somebody else to continue. So we'll talk this far. That item 12.2, the Wentworth Park is going forward. The design is being done in discussion with our Department of Community Development, and we have a initial concept in June, and recommendations also for a playway, and also how we'll do the parking. This is also nature-based. There's a Center for Technology, and when the concept was finalized, it also will be presented to council before we proceed with the construction. I also like to remind you that the washrooms will be, the construction will be, it will be given to Gary Beliveau. The Travel Media Association Travel Conference, an annual conference, will be held this year in Nova Scotia on the 22nd to the 26th of June, which is coming very fast. We expect to have about 100 people from media industry who will be participating. Larry is on the organizing committee and he's coordinating the tours that will be held before the conference. These will be held before the 19th to the 22nd of June, and there will be tours during the conference and also after the conference. There are 3 tours that will include Clare. The first one is Acadian Immersion, the other is Flavors of Southwest Tours, and also the third one is Lighthouse Photography. Larry will also have individual meetings with people from the industry to promote our community. And we also expect to have a presence in social media as our participation in this conference. The community cleanup program is annual, as you know, that we launch every year. We just to stop the program now because the wood sticks are out mostly, but until now there have been 18 people participating who cleaned 65 pieces of road, and there was 8,084 pounds of trash that was the municipality has given $500 to these 18 groups. Out of these 18 groups, 4 groups have done the cleanup. That will not has to be opted to do it free. So there are also people on the waiting list, and if we can have other people to continue. Something to note that I was happy to see in the past. It was an item that was very important in our publicity, but this year there was only one group who picked up the publicity that we had printed. So this indicates that this had an impact. Normally we pick up 4,000 pounds of trash. Now we're 3,600, and some of them is with these free flyers that were wet. So the tendency is good since we decided to stop these flyers. Finances, we're still early in the fiscal. The municipality has recorded 8,605,849 in revenues versus 1,799,111 in expenses, for a surplus of 6,806,738. As of May 31st, 2022, the municipality had a balance of $931,574 in its operating fund, $429,576 in its capital fund, and a total reserve balance of $5,933,417. The total reserve balance can be broken down as follows. The operating reserve, $1,826,270. Capital reserve, $2,977,468. The landfill closure reserve, $335,932. And the gas tax reserve, $793,747. Financially, the municipality is in good standing, and that is my report. Are there questions or comments on this report? Seems to me it's a report of somebody who's very occupied. So we go now to number 11, committee reports. Building permits, Councillor Denny.
Activity report for construction was May of 2021. We had 36 permits issued for value of construction of $2 million, a little over $2 million. And this past May, we had 23 permits issued for a value of construction of $1.9 million. The year-to-date for last May, we were at 35 million, and the year-to-date this year, we are at 6.3 million.
Des questions, comment?
Est-ce qu'il y a des questions, commentaires sur ce rapport? Is there questions or comments? Reports now for waste check, Councillor DeVoe. Thank you, Ms. We had a meeting on the 14th of June yesterday at waste check. We spoke about, it was mentioned at the last meeting that on the report done by our Councillor Como, the part, the rope for the to send this to Queensland Field. It is not settled yet. This is still under consideration. The cost to send this to Queens. We also bought a Ford Escape to 2022 because we needed a new vehicle. So we're gonna buy a Ford Escape for $38,545. This is coming soon, and we also spoke about the black bags, the garbage bags that are black. We spoke mostly regarding businesses. It is just, we had complaints, not complaints, but businesses saying that they find that it comes fast. It's just to make it clear that this started in April 1st, 2007. This is when we started policies and bylaws for businesses that they could not use any more black bags. So we gave until now, which is 15 years, for people to try to get used to have no more black bags. But this is only for businesses, not residents. So we decided that it is time now to push it more. So we will stop then.
If somebody wants to leave bags at the dump, they might be refused. They will have to go back with their bags. So we will give them a chance a bit more, but we gave enough time. Just to remind the public that for the homes, this is not new. This is since 2007 also. We are just allowed one black bag at the road. Sometimes there are more and they pick them up, but we are only allowed one black bag. And we are talking, not before long, there will be no more black bag. It'll be clear bags. Except that if someone makes a request to waste check, for example, if somebody takes care of somebody who is sick at home and the private things that they don't want to put in clear bags by the road, it could be placed in a black bag. But apart from there will be no more black bags. But this is for the future, for later on. We had a visit from Richie Nickerson, bylaw enforcement officer in Clare. He visited areas where that they had dumped homes that were destroyed, that were demolished, but they had a visit from Mr. Nickerson. So I just want to tell the public again that we have policies, bylaws on this, and we will start to reinforce them a bit more because it's becoming, that we find a lot more. And it was mentioned by Mr. Seary about the flyers, that there are less, and it's true, there are a lot less, but I just want to tell the public that those who have flyers in their mailbox, the community mailbox that we call, we go to the areas where they take them out of their community mailbox, and if they don't want it, they throw it on the ground. But we ask them if they don't want them to bring them to their homes and put them in the recycling and not to throw them on the ground around the mailboxes. It works a lot well, and I thank the public for that. That is my report. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor DeVoe. Any question or comment on his report? Okay, we will go on to new business. Item 12.1, motion to send a letter of intent, Finale des Jeux de l'Acadie. At the meeting of the Committee of Council, I made a presentation or an overview of a session that I attended on May 30th, and with Tory and Jacques Bellefleur from St. Anne's, regarding the direction that I had received to explore the possibility of welcoming the 40th edition of the finale, and the meeting was obligatory for anybody interested in getting the finale, but I understand that the municipality of Clare is the only municipality outside of New Brunswick who is interested in putting their candidacy, but we just want to welcome. We are looking at welcoming if we are chosen. We are looking at economic benefits or considerable benefits for the community, a lot of youths in the area, a lot of parents and families also in the area. So it would be an activity that would be interesting for our community. That being said, for the process to follow to submit our request, the next step would be to submit a letter of intent before the 1st of July. At the last committee meeting, I received a recommendation from council to submit a letter, and I am looking now for a formal motion to submit a letter to the Société des Jeux de l'Acadie. Any questions or comments on this? Anybody wish to make the motion to send the letter? Councillor Godin? Yeah, yes, to read the motion. I move that the Council for the Municipality of the District of Clare send a letter to the Société des Jeux de l'Acadie by July 1st, 2022, confirming the municipality's intention to apply to host the final of the Jeux de l'Acadie in 2025. Seconded by Councillor DeVoe. All those in favor? Against? Motion is carried. 12.2, motion to increase the municipal contribution for the track and field facility. Yes, in my report, I mentioned that there are increases into the price related to the project because we had to go to the work, we had to cancel the work in November. We could not put the tar and the rubber surface because of that delay and what is happening in the international markets today, especially with the price for oil. There is a considerable increase in the cost of the tar, the paving, and the rubber surface. So for the rubber surface, we were advised that from November until now, the increase was $58,000. So we were also advised by our supplier of the pavement, it was an increase of about the same amount, about $50,000. So between then, that supplier removed himself from the project because he could not meet our deadlines. So we had to find a supplier at the last minute, especially for this time of the year. Unfortunately, that resulted in another increase in the price. So instead of an increase of about 55 and 58, we are looking at 97,000. So altogether, we are looking at 104,000. And discussion with the municipality, who is our partner on this project, we looked at the options on how to address this overrun, this increase. We decided that it would not be in our best interest to approach funding agencies. We have other big requests for funding from these elsewhere, so we don't want to bring another visit to the table for this project. So what I proposed to the council last week, and that is requested, is that we would see an increase from the municipality of $82,113, and the municipality would match that to arrive at the 164,000. So I am asking the council to propose an increase for the project from 600,000 to 685,000. And I'm looking this evening for the formal motion to accept this. This is not a recommendation that I am doing easily, but the track and field is a big addition to the municipality, and a project like this will help us to have the finals of the Acadian Games, and the potential economic benefits are considerable. So I am looking for a motion this evening to increase the contribution by $85,000. Any questions or comments on the project? Councillor DeVoe? I want to make the motion. Thank you. I move that the council for the municipality of the District of Clare increase the municipal contribution to the track and field project from $600,000 to $685,000, and that these funds be taken from the municipality's capital reserve. Does anybody wish to second that? Seconded by Councillor Hill. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried.
12.3, motion to name a road, Eel Lake Branch. This is a project to name a road, which is from Eel Lake Drive. In English would be the Eel Lake Branch, and in French, Branche du Lac d'Anguille. There are 4 properties on this road. We send them letters. These 4 people who have lands, and 3 of them answered that they approved the proposed name. Therefore, we have 75%, and our policy says that we must have 66.6. So we are in line with our policy. And the 4th owner just didn't reply to the letters. Not that he's against this. So we have 3 of the 4 people who own land there. So we have a motion that is in order. Anybody want to do the motion, Councillor DeVoe? You don't have to mention all the numbers. I move that the Council for the Municipality of the District of Clare approve the request to name the road shared by the property identification numbers listed below as follows. In English, Eel Lake Branch. In French, Branche du Lac d'Anguille. Anybody want to second this motion? Seconded by Councillor Como. Second, motion carried. 12.5. 12.4, motion to award a tender to a municipal vehicle. Thank you. In our budget for 22-23, we had allowed money for the purchase of a new truck, especially for recreation department. Our staff have to transport equipment during the whole year. This is what they usually do it with their personal vehicle, but it's not very secure. So, secondly, our employees and our building inspector have also done a lot of road trips, and sometimes they use their personal vehicle. So it is not maybe at the financial level, but mostly because of a security question. So in the budget, we had indicated an amount for a truck. When we buy vehicles, which is not often, we limit ourselves with the municipal car dealers, and this time Clare Dodge and Bellevue Motors. We're telling them what we were looking for, and we invited them to do submissions. Each of them presented, and after our recommendation is to accept the submission by Bellevue Motors Limited for a Ford F-150 XLT for the amount of $53,904 plus HST, and that these funds, it's beneath the amount we had budgeted. So the process is finished. So what we propose this evening is a motion to. We're looking for an official motion for this by Councillor Hill.
I move that the council for the municipality of the District of Clare accept a bid from Bellevue Motors Limited for a new Ford F-150 XLT in the amount of $53,904 plus HST, and that these funds be taken from municipality's capital reserve.
Okay.
Somebody will second this motion? All those, motion carried. 12.5, motion to send a letter, Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources and Renewables for Lavillette Beach Provincial Park. We received complaints, and I know that the warden also received some regarding the state of the ramps at Lavillette Beach, and the restrooms and the change rooms. So public is concerned, and they're also preoccupied by the lack of maintenance. It's a provincial park. The municipality does not have an authority to do this type of work, but simply I think it is appropriate for the municipality to send a letter to the province responsible for provincial parks to tell them, give them an idea of the situation there, because residents of Clare and are telling us that there is work that needs to be done to maintain and make better infrastructure there at the beach. So this is the motion we look this evening, to authorize us to send this letter to the province. Somebody wants to make the motion? Conseillère Comeau? I move that the council for the municipality of the District of Clare send a letter to the Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources and Renewables outlining the concerns pertaining to the lack of maintenance of the ramps, washrooms and changing facilities at Lavillette Beach Provincial Park. So somebody who's going to second this, Councillor DeVoe. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. 12.6, motion to appoint a representative on the Board of Governors of Université Saint-Anne. We received a letter from the university, the secretary of the Sofitel ask us to name somebody from council, to name somebody on the on the Board of Governors for the upcoming year. It's something that has been done every year at this time, and the practice of in council is that the warden is automatically appointed to be on this board. And what we do, we do a motion to make this formal, to appoint the warden to the Board of Governors at the University Setan. So this is what we're doing here tonight. Somebody ready to do the motion? Councillor Hill.
I move that the council for the municipality of the District of Clare appoint Warden Yvonne LeBlanc as council's representative on the Board of Governors for the University St. Anne for the 12-month period beginning September 1st, 2022.
Somebody want to second this motion? Councillor Lucelle, those in favor, against? Motion carried. 12.7, motion to grant exemption of noise bylaw, Mile East Productions Limited. So the outbound law enforcement has been approached by a client for an exemption for our noise bylaw. Essentially, they will have an event. It's a private party that they will have on, I think it's on June 15th. It's June 15th, 20, it's tonight. The motion is has been done at the other last meeting. There's also the process that is elaborated in our policies for the exemptions. They have given us all the details regarding their private party. There'll be 20 to 40 people. All the neighbors are invited. So the reason they do this formal designs is because they will plan to have fireworks. So they followed the process as recommended by our bylaws, and the bylaw enforcement officer gave me this thing, and I'm asking tonight for a formal motion tonight to do this. So we don't see any problems with this. The neighbors are also mostly invited. So my recommendation is to approve this.
Through an official motion. Anybody wish to make the motion for the request? Councillor Comeau? I move that the Council for the Municipality of the District of Clare grant an exemption to the municipality's noise bylaw to Mile East Productions Limited for their event to be held at 105 Baseline Road, Cape St. Mary's from 5 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. on June 15, 2022. Does anybody wish to second the motion? Councillor Doucette, all those in favor? Against? Motion is carried. 12.8, motion to amend the 2019 Volunteer Fire Service Vehicle Assessment. In the evaluation of the vehicles that we used and that we did in 2019, there was an order to replace these fire trucks. If we follow that procedure, the first truck that we would be looking at to finalize the purchase next year in 2023 for the service department in Havelock. Next year it will be St. Bernard, and again in St. Bernard the third year. Both departments have approached us to see if there would be a possibility to revise this order. What they are proposing, and for reasonable, valid reasons, is to have St. Bernard, Havelock, and St. Bernard. At the municipal level, there is no risk for us to grant the request. we are still following the recommendation of the consultants, and we will replace these trucks, but we are just modifying the order. I have a letter signed by the two fire chiefs of the departments in St. Bernard and Havelock to recommend the change and signaling their support for the change. So I don't see any problem to proceed with the change as requested by St. Bernard. And this is what I am asking of you tonight. Does anybody wish to make the motion? Councillor Hill?
Approve the joint request from the St. Bernard and Havelock Fire Departments to change the previously agreed upon order of the next 3 fire truck purchases, as outlined in this 2019 Volunteer Fire Service Vehicle Assessment to the following: St. Bernard Fire Department number 1, Havelock Fire Department number 2, and the St. Bernard Fire Department number 3.
Does anybody wish to second that? Councillor Doucette? All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. 12.9, motion to grant a tender for a multi-use court in Havelock. For the multi-use court, we came out with a request for tenders. We had 4 companies that have submitted, all reputable companies. After the revision of the tenders and the deadline proposed for the work, it is the recommendation of the staff and myself to grant the contract to the lowest bidder, which is Spec Resources Limited, at the amount of $86,650. The works could start on July 15th and would be finished on August 15th. So they can do it. So unless the timeline changes, which it can be done quickly. Initially, when I proposed the project, we talked about a project of $80,000 plus HST, but what I forgot to mention at the time was that the HST, we receive it completely for this project. So the $86,000 is a bit more than the $80,000 that we were looking at, but I think that we will end closely to what we had recommended. So I recommend that we proceed with this tender call from Spec. Does anybody wish to make the motion? Councillor Hill?
Move that the Council for the Municipality of the District of Clare award the tender for the Havelock Multi-Use Court to Spec Resources Limited in the amount of $86,650 plus HST, and that these funds be taken from municipality's capital reserve.
Anybody wish to second? Councillor DeVoe, all those in favor? Against? Motion carried. 12.10, the storage building transfer station. This is the transfer building that we want constructed, and it would be good for us to do it sooner rather than later. As you know, we submitted a financial request to help with the construction of the storage building. The contract has been granted to Garian Construction, but we were waiting for news from the financing. It is the same request that we had submitted for the Stewart Extension Project in Meteghan, except that it is a lot smaller. We are waiting for a reply from the province. There will be some delays regarding the projects from under this program, so it will delay. We are not sure up until when, but we do not have a fixed date. It's unfortunate because at the insurance level that I find there was another fire I learned last week We were happy because the staff was there at the time and they could catch it before it went big. But in this case, it was somebody who had put batteries in a bag, and with the heat, the batteries started smoking, and the staff noticed. So they could remove with the loader because it was in mid-afternoon. But if that had happened at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock at night, we would have had the same situation as the last time, and the repairs from the last time are not completed yet. So it would have been the same situation. It's not something we can predict at 100%, but the storage building is part of that because we can get the equipment out and do things. But the other part of this project is an alarm system to warn us, and the fire department in Meteghan. If there is a fire, they can reply quickly. The last time it burnt all night, and the staff only noticed in the morning, so at that point the damage was done. So the reason I am having it here tonight is the more that I think about it, the program that we are asking for funds from, there is a big program, a big project and a small project under this program, so I am not sure that the funders will be giving us both projects, but I was asked what the priority is, and because of the extension of the program, it was the sewer system in Meteghan, but I understand it might be one or the other, and the way the program is structured, we cannot start the project before having the news if it is approved or not. If we start the project at all, we are disqualified. It's not as if we could take the risk of doing it and claim it retroactively after, but in this case, we are not allowed. If we start without the approbation, we are losing the funding. So what I would move for your consideration is that we are looking at $294,000 project, and it would reduce our contribution to a little less than $100,000. But I'm not sure if that permission or the grants will come in the fall or if at all. So I would request this as a serious, because the insurance at a given point will just say, whoa. So I am asking the council to consider formally to remove our financial request for that program and to proceed with the project with Garion under our gas tax. We have funds under gas tax. We will still honor our obligations for the mainland internet project, but we still have funds from the gas tax. So this is not including the contributions that we will receive this year that we have not yet received. So this is for your consideration for discussion tonight. If you are open to this idea, it is a serious problem.
We can't stop this 100%, but I think we can reduce the risk that we have now, but it will require an investment. So I don't know, something that you are ready to consider this evening and maybe make a motion if you think it is advisable now. Are there questions or comments on this? That was my question. We had access of the gas stack to build this building. I think it is at a point now. This is the second or third time we try and not have any success. So I am like to make a motion because we have this money in the gas stack reserve, and it is necessary to have this building for the operation of our. Is there anybody else who wants to comment on this? I think it is a case. I think you can almost, if you can almost go. If there is no urgent, is Councillor Lusa ready to make the motion? Yes, I'm ready to make the motion to get the funds from the gas tax. Councillor DeVoe seconds. All those in favor? Motion carried. Comments? Just to put this in perspective, for those who listened to us at the last fire, the repair cost, and it's not finished, it will be over $1 million for the equipment and the building itself. So it doesn't take much, but something that burns for 12 hours in a row with nobody trying to cut it off. This is the second one in a relatively short time. So prices go up quickly. Costs go up quickly. 12.1 railing for the Metegan Family Park. This is something that could have been reported for next month, but I just wanted to talk a bit about it tonight to make you aware of what is what would be our intentions. The railing at the Metegan Park, when you come in the park, there is parking, and then you can go at a look off and look at all the park. This railing is in wood. Harold phoned me last week, and he said the railing, it's starting to be used and show signs of wear, and it's a bit loose, but I think it might be okay until next year. So I said, are you sure? Well, he said, I do believe, but I said, well, he just wanted to advise us that is something to foresee in our. It's a railing that's 93 feet long, and as you know, there's a drop of quite a few feet, at least 1 story high. So I told her, no problem, thank you for letting us know. So I suggested, respectively, that Harold, that maybe I will send one of our inspector to go and inspect it. He said, okay. So we went, and it's quite loose. The railing, that the ones that we lean on, is quite rotten, and at the base, it's loose. It is also rotten at the base. So I asked, do you think it can do the year? He said, I'm not sure. So I think it's something we should look at replacing this. I wanted to just to give you this idea tonight for consideration. And there's a rating in aluminium that would last longer than pressure-treated wood. I haven't done any tenders yet, but it will be about $13,000 more or less, give or take. So in pressure-treated, we haven't received one for tonight. Daniel thinks it would be probably maybe half or 2/3 of the aluminum cost, but evidently it will not last as long. So it's a situation we might have to replace it again in 5 to 7 years or maybe more, compared to aluminum that once in there it's good for many years. So I just wanted to give you an idea that this is going on. I don't have an exact amount this evening, but if it's something you want to consider, I think it would be my recommendation to take money from the capital reserve. And if you think what is your preference in material, we can go see different local suppliers to give us a quote, and then I can present that to you at our next meeting if it's something you wish to do. So the word is up to you. Are there any comments on this? Councillor DeVoe? I think it has to be done now. I wouldn't like somebody to get hurt, and then we'll say, well, we knew it was coming and we should have done it earlier. So I'm ready to make I don't think it should be in wood. I think it should be something that will last longer. and do a bit of research to find the different prices and do it as early as possible. For tonight is just, I just wanted to see your direction to explore this matter. So I just wanted to know if it's aluminum would be your preference, and then I'll look quotes for this. If you tell me you prefer pressure treated, we'll concentrate on that material. I just want a direction from council to see which one, if you want to make this now, and if yes, what is your preference on the material used for the railing? I think something we must take in consideration who's using this park. It's young people that are not too tall. What is your Councillor DeVoe is aluminum. What is for the rest of you? What do you think? Councillor Godard? I think if we fix it, we should use something that's going to be long-lasting. There are consensus that aluminum might be the best solution. So you can look into that and find us a quote. I will talk to Danielle and Rod Godard because of the amounts that we might cost. It would be an invitational tender, and we limit ourselves to local companies that are able to make this for us. We'll deal exclusively with them. Thank you for that. Number 13. Section acquisition, sale, lease, and security of municipal property, and 13.2 are personal staff questions for people who are listening. The date and the hour of the next meeting will be Wednesday, July 20th at 7 o'clock. Somebody will propose to go in closed meeting. Councillor Dusa. Councillor
No.
Ouais, je crois pas que je porte mes écouteurs. J'entendais toi, je peux presque pas entendre ça quand il parle.
Tu peux juste les enlever puis les mettre back quand je parle?
Ben, pas encore, je suis pas trop.